When police found Laura Mitchell's body on a Sunday morning, no weapon was at the scene, no sign of forced entry, and no one was ever charged. Years later, the town still argues about who did it. Evidence went quiet, rumors got loud, and in a place built on trust, words became the most lethal thing of all. On June 12th, in Havenbrook, a riverside New England town where everybody knows your children's names, Laura Mitchell is described as steady, generous, the kind of neighbor who mows your lawn when you're sick. She worked at the county library, volunteered at the shelter, and lived alone in a small clapboard house near Maple Street. 3 days earlier, she had closed the library, locked the doors, and gone home. Nothing about her routine suggested danger, but on that Sunday morning, a jogger finds the back door ajar. Dispatch gets a single 911 call. "I think someone is inside. Please hurry." Officers from the Havenbrook precinct arrive within minutes. The scene is contained, photos taken, evidence bags sealed. By midnight, investigators are calling it a homicide. By week 2, the town has a name: Ethan Ross, the quiet man who lives 2 doors down, who had a heated argument with Laura over a parking spot weeks earlier. By month 3, another name surfaces, and then another. No one is formally charged. What follows is not just an unsolved case. It's a slow, social disintegration. Detective Marcus Hale, the lead investigator at the time, later recalls the early hours with clinical precision. "There was no sign of forced entry. No neighbor heard anything out of the ordinary," he says. Forensics collected trace evidence, fibers, a partial footprint on the back step, and a phone left on the kitchen counter still warm from a call that never connected. Toxicology returned negative for common sedatives. The coroner lists cause of death as blunt force trauma to the head. The weapon isn't recovered. The investigation then moves from physical traces to alibi, motives, and inevitably, whispers. The interrogation rooms at the precinct are gray and humming under fluorescent lights. They are designed to be neutral, to strip away performance. Detectives sit across from people they suspect, neighbors, exes, friends. Ethan Ross is one of them. He arrives in a faded denim jacket, hands folded, eyes flicking to the one-way mirror. He is calm, almost too calm. Detective Hale begins. "Ethan, where were you between 8 and 10 p.m. on Friday night?" Ethan answers, voice flat. "At home. I was working on my truck in the driveway. My neighbor, Tom Fisher, saw me at 9:30. He leans forward only once, then sits back. His jaw tightens when asked about the argument with Laura. She was angry about parking. We said things. I apologized." His hands are still. There's no tremor. That's a behavioral note Hale takes, a controlled effect. Not a tell of guilt, but a tell of precise self-control. On the table, detectives lay out their timeline. "Your footprint was found on her back step," Hale says. "You were seen on camera leaving your house Friday night." Ethan's face doesn't change. "I walk past her place. I didn't go in." The footage shows a shadowy figure. Indistinct, time-stamped 11:02 p.m. Small details matter. The defense later points out gaps in the chain of custody for the time-stamped footage. The prosecution never files charges. Another person sits across from detectives weeks later, Naomi Clark, Laura's former co-worker and close friend. She's visibly shaken. "Who would hurt Laura?" she asks, whispering. When questioned about a series of angry texts found on Laura's phone from an unknown number, Naomi's hands tremble. She insists she didn't send them. Forensics traces the texts to a prepaid burner, purchased 2 towns over. The trail cools there. The investigation runs into a wall, a phone number without a name, a purchase without a camera angle, the kind of blind spot that allows rumor to flourish. Without definitive answers, people start filling gaps with explanations. On online neighborhood boards, commenters stitch together fragments into narratives. "Ethan had motive," someone writes, pasting a photo of their neighbor's argument. "Laura was dating someone secret," posts another, linking to a man who had lunch with her 2 weeks prior. At the grocery store, strangers nod at Ethan differently. Children are warned to avoid Naomi's yard. A local pastor is asked to mediate whispered disputes. This is where the evidence shifts from physical to social. The thing about rumors, they don't require proof. They only need plausibility and repetition. And in Havenbrook, plausibility is supplied by small truths, an argument, a late-night walk, a shadow on camera. Repetition is supplied by late-night drinks, online threads, and the geometry of a small town where 5 degrees of separation collapse into one. Detective Hale recognizes the harm. Rumor corrodes alibi. he said. It changes witness statements. People who worry they might be suspected start to act differently. They miss work. They move away. They stop answering the door. Behavioral shifts become evidence of suspicion. Absences noted by friends become guilt. That's cognitive bias at work. Once a narrative infects a community, every ambiguous action confirms it. One of the most damaging moments comes in a televised community meeting. The DA calls to diffuse tension. A citizen uses the platform to read aloud an anonymous social media thread accusing a local youth league coach of being involved. The coach, a volunteer for over a decade, sits in the front row and does not speak. He later tells a reporter he cried for 2 days. His wife files for divorce months later. The town's recreational programs lose volunteers. The rumor, amplified by a public forum, accomplishes tangible damage. Job loss, relationships frayed, and no one in authority can unring that bell. In a decade-long span, multiple investigative strategies are tried. Cold case units revisit DNA evidence. Forensic genealogists rerun partial profiles through public databases. Phone records are subpoenaed, then later deemed insufficient for probable cause. A private investigator uncovers receipts for a replacement backdoor. Someone did repair the Mitchell property weeks after the homicide. The receipt matches a local handyman who says he fixed a loose hinge. His demeanor in interview is defensive. Sweat beads at his temples when asked about why the job wasn't documented in his ledger. I don't keep detailed receipts for every little job, he says. It's plausible. It's not proof. Each revelation produces a holy shit moment for the town, then dissipates. A partial DNA match yields a familial lead that excites investigators. An uncle's DNA in a database. Subpoenas are issued. The lead collapses when a genealogical relationship explains the match, but not presence at the scene. The haplotype is common to families who have lived in the county for generations. The result returns to ambiguity. Threads of guilt fray into more threads. Psychologically, this case is a textbook study of projection and scapegoating. Forensic psychologists consulted on the case note that small communities under stress seek a scapegoat to restore a sense of safety. When an event violates a town's narrative of normalcy, one expert observes, the social system seeks a person to blame because a person is controllable. An unknown force is not. The mechanism is clean, albeit cruel. Pick a claim, attach emotion, repeat it until it anchors. There are also behavioral tells that attract attention but mean little. A man sells his house and leaves town the week after Laura's funeral. Neighbors whisper, flight equals guilt. In his interview, he explains he couldn't bear the reminders. He can't sleep. He pays cash for a place 120 miles away, changes his phone number. His bank records corroborate a move financed months prior. Still, the narrative has been written. People read it as confirmation, not context. Not all rumor-driven accusations land on innocent people. Someone does finally get arrested. Briefly, a man with a criminal history whose DNA previously linked to a minor assault is detained when an old acquaintance claims he bragged about the Mitchell case in a bar. He's held for 48 hours, then released when his alibi, a monitored shelter room at the time of death, checks out. The arrest splashes headlines. Reputations are splintered. Families traumatized. The man sues the county for wrongful arrest. The suit settles quietly. No apology is recorded for the nights he spent in a holding cell, or the strain his mother endured as neighbors eyed her groceries a little longer. Throughout, Laura remains more than a case file. Friends describe her small rituals, the green scarf she wore every November, the stack of unpaid library fines she always forgot to clear, the meal she brought to the neighbor with cancer. The town honors her with a bench by the river, yet the bench becomes another site of contention. Some argue it was placed too close to the road. Others say the plaque should include her full name. Even her memory is politicized. Importantly, investigators keep returning to the evidence. They re-interview witnesses, look for inconsistencies, catalog the rumor network as part of their records. The DA's office reviews the file when there is new forensics and declines to prosecute more than once, citing insufficient evidence. That legal threshold, probable cause for arrest, proof beyond a reasonable doubt, remains unmet. We never had that smoking gun, Hale says plainly. We had suspicion, and we had consequences, but not proof. At a public forum years later, a woman stands and says, "Rumors didn't get us closer to justice. They just destroyed lives." Another replies, "But if we hadn't pushed, maybe the DA would never have looked twice." The tension between pursuit and prejudice lives in that exchange. There is no neat resolution. In the interrogation footage that is released to the public after a Freedom of Information request, you can watch the subtle power of question framing. Detectives avoid leading the accused, but press on behavioral gaps, late-night movements, evasive details, inconsistent statements. On camera, watch for micro-expressions, the micro-furrow of the brow before a rehearsed response, the blink rate increase when someone fabricates an alibi, the sudden stillness when a line of questioning hits an unexpected nerve. These are the raw materials of investigative craft, but they are also raw materials for rumor. Today, Havenbrook still argues. Social media threads remain alive with theories. The bench remains by the river. Laura's family lives 2 towns over now. They return for anniversaries and avoid talk of the case. No statute has lapsed. Legally, the file is open. Practically, the community has been altered in ways no confession could repair. In the end, there is an unresolved central question that outlives any forensic lead. Did a lack of evidence doom the investigation, or did a flood of rumor drown the truth? Was justice delayed because the case lacked clarity, or because the town's need for answers contaminated witness memory and compromised lines of inquiry? We leave you with that tension. Rumor can break a case, or it can break people. When proof is absent and suspicion abundant, which is the greater danger? An innocent life ruined by gossip, or a killer hidden behind a chorus of speculation? What do you think helps justice, and what destroys it?